You're listening to the Downeast Mike podcast, the quirky little podcast from Maine. And now, your host, Downeast Mike.
Dee-dee-dle-leedle. Good morning, everybody. This is Downeast Mike. I have both oars in the water this morning. I hope you do, too. It's a beautiful day here in Downeast Maine. The sun is shining. The wind is blowing about 25 knots, gusting to 26. It's actually not that bad, but the umbrella out in the patio, that took flight overnight, and there was this big weed growing on the patio because local maintenance has been slacking off this summer. That weed was probably about 4 feet high. It was beautiful. I don't even know what it was, but it just kept getting big, and it seemed ashamed to cut it down. And, you know, Mother Nature took care of it, as she or he always does. Fixed it up real good. This is Downeast Mike, episode number 137, news and commentary for Sunday, July 19th, in the year 2026. Our motto here on the Downeast Mike podcast is that some of this is whimsy, some of this is true, and the interpretation of it all is entirely up to you. Did you know that the Downeast Mike podcast contains no mean words, just wholesome goodness from Downeast Maine? In today's episode, we have no oil tech exports to Russia. That's from 1978. The headlines of yesterday are the headlines of today. There was a talkative waitress at Dunkin story from 1978. We have a molded chicken salad recipe from 1978. You don't want to miss that. And the bones of giants at Popham from 1907. Giant bones in a barrel. Another great story that we've found for you here on the Downeast Mike podcast. From 1978, President Carter was restricting oil technology exports to the Soviets. He had decided to place all of those oil technology exports under government controls, a move that the White House said Tuesday was taken in response to Moscow's trials of Soviet dissidents. White House officials also said that Carter had decided to cancel the sale of a Sperry Univac computer to the Soviet Union. It's probably one of the nicest things they did for him. Both decisions, they said, have been taken in retaliation for the sentences handed out to Soviet dissidents. What's his name? Alexander Ginsburg and Shizovsky. However, the officials stressed that the actions should also be seen as providing greater leverage in dealing with Moscow on a wide range of issues. We love wide ranges of issues. That was in 1978. The Talkative Waitress story. Oh, this is special to the Bangor Daily News. It was out of Portland, Maine. Violating an employer's rules does not automatically mean an employee loses unemployment benefits. That was a ruling from the Maine Supreme Court. The court upheld the appeal of Mary A. Moore of Portland, a waitress at Dunkin' Donuts who was discharged in 1974 because she repeatedly violated the restaurant's rules by talking with customers. Imagine. Ms. Moore also failed to collect from clientele immediately after they were served. Oh, they were running up a tab at Dunkin'. The commissioner of Maine's Unemployment Security Commission held that a violation of a company's rules constitutes misconduct under the law. For such misconduct, a claimant is disqualified from unemployment benefits for 12 weeks or until she has earned 8 times her weekly benefit amount. So the Supreme Court reversed that decision. The court said disobeying a company rule does not in it of itself mean statutory misconduct. Instead, the court opted for a case-by-case approach, giving different weight to different violations depending on the gravity of the infraction. This is all about talking at Dunkin' Donuts. Justice David Nichols, who wrote a lot of judges named Nichols. Justice David Nichols, who wrote the unanimous decision, said Mrs. Moore's talking to customers was reasonable for her to do as a waitress. He indicated that the commissioner must determine whether an employee's rule violation is unreasonable based on an objective standard, not on the subjective assessment of an employer. And it was remanded back, the whole case, to the Employment Security Commission to allow her to recoup the employment benefits denied her 4 years ago. That's a long time and a lot of trials there for talking at Dunkin' Donuts. Here's a story. This is out of England. Jonathan Voles, he's 16 years old. He was making his first parachute jump on Monday when his main parachute failed to open, and then his emergency parachute wrapped around his body. I hate it when that happens. As he corkscrewed to earth in a free fall that lasted about 45 seconds, he plunged toward the metal roof of an aircraft hangar, but he went through a window in the roof. His parachute cords caught on the broken window frame, and he came to a halt just 24 inches from the ground. His only injury was a straining of ligaments in his right leg, which was entangled in the harness. Can you picture Tom Cruise trying to do that one? All right, here's a story. This is out of New York. The urban angler tries luck in the water mains. Jack Gasnick does his fishing not in a clear, babbling brook, but in the dim recesses of subterranean Manhattan's water mains. In fact, says Gasnick, the city's underground water supply, the water that New Yorkers drink and bathe in, provides some of the best running water anywhere for every kind of aquatic creature, from goldfish and trout to minnows and eels. The only thing I've never seen is bass. I would think bass would be like the most prevalent fish here, especially those largemouth bass. Guess I just don't go far enough north. I understand they have striped bass in the Bronx. The water must be better or something up there, he said. Gasnick, who is 59 years old, he runs a plumbing supply house in the heart of Manhattan. He doesn't really remember exactly what started his urban fishing career. He does remember a call in 1956 from a plumbing friend, we all have plumbing friends, don't we, who told him about a still rushing and gushing water main break. He got his first trout right out on fashionable Madison Avenue. Friends in the city's water department still call him when there's a main break, and in the 20-odd years of his hobby, he has seen bullheads, brook trout, pickerel, perch, smelts, goldfish, and carp. His oddest catch was a crayfish. The most common are eels, the largest a 24-inch white catfish. Here's another story out of Washington. The troops may move the mail. The Pentagon is prepared to mobilize up to 90,000 or more troops to help move and protect the mail in the event of a nationwide postal workers' strike. That was from administrative sources on Tuesday. A Pentagon plan is ready if President Carter issues the necessary orders to use Army, Navy, Marine, Air Force, and the Reserve to help the Postal Service safeguard, process, and deliver the mail in those areas in which normal mail service has been impaired by work stoppages among postal employees. To call up the National Guard and reservists would require a presidential proclamation of a national emergency, as occurred in March 1970, the last time that there was a postal strike. That strike was limited to New York City. Lots going on with the mail in 1978. Here's another headline from that year that is just like the headlines of today. Egypt and Israel disagree on the West Bank. They sharply disagree over the future of Palestinians in the West Bank of the Jordan River at the opening of the U.S.-sponsored Mideast peace talks on Tuesday. I think the gap is still very wide, an Egyptian spokesman said, assessing the 3.5-hour session hosted by Secretary of State Cyrus Vance. To ensure security, the talks are being held in a 13th century moated castle 45 minutes southeast of London. I think we're still waiting for a more positive response from the Israelis to our proposals. State Department spokesman Harding Carter said the two foreign ministers of Israel and Egypt began the first round of exploratory talks with a frank examination of each country's position. They did not evade the issues, Carter said. So that's pretty much the same thing that's going on over there today, unfortunately. Well, let's lighten things up with a wonderful molded chicken salad recipe. It leaves time for freezing peas because everybody needs a few extra minutes in their day to freeze their peas. Molded chicken, it's good to the last slice. See if you can stomach this one. This is during the sales. They have a picture of it too. It looks like something from Mars. During the sales on chicken, pick up packages of cut-up chicken or chicken parts. I'm going to turn everybody off from chicken forever. Those scrappy backbone areas and other pieces that offer less juicy meat can be boiled and then picked off to make this molded chicken salad. Crunchy water chestnuts give it texture. Olives give it color. This is from, it was published in the Bangor Daily News, and the writer was Brownie Schrumpf, the news food columnist. Great advisor of recipes and food to everyone in the area at the time. By now, the homemaker has salad greens from her own garden. We do. And in place of the usual tossed greens salad, make a molded chicken salad to serve with hot rolls, and make those in the cool of the morning after the salad has been turned into a mold. In keeping with this salad, try frozen egg rolls, heated according to package instructions, and served with small bowls of Chinese hot mustard and sweet and sour sauce for dipping. All right, molded Chinese chicken salad recipe. 2 tablespoons unflavored gelatin. Half a cup of cold water. 3/4 of a cup mayonnaise or salad dressing. 1 tablespoon of soy sauce, pepper, and paprika to taste. 1 and 1.5 to 1.5 cups diced cooked chicken. Half a cup of sliced water chestnuts. 3 tablespoons of chopped pimento. 1 tablespoon chopped parsley. You soften the gelatin in cold water in the top half of a double boiler. Place over hot water and stir until the gelatin has completely dissolved. Cool it slightly. Fold in the mayonnaise, soy sauce, pepper. Add remaining ingredients and mix well. And here's where you turn it into an oiled 3.5 to 4 cup mold, and you refrigerate it until set. Unmold it on crisp salad greens. Wow. Nothing tastes better than green peas fresh from the garden. Of course, this is only one man's opinion. You may say the same of green beans or zucchini or carrots. Shelled or potted, washed and cooked in a small amount of boiling water, the peas need only a sprinkle of salt and a pat of butter for good eating. If one has cream on hand, a few spoonfuls of cream added to the drained and buttered peas adds to the flavor. If new potatoes are available, pare and cook until just done. Add freshly shelled peas and continue cooking until peas are tender. Do not overcook. Drain. Serve with butter and cream. Now, molded chicken salad. Gotta look into that those ingredient list. I can just picture it in my mind. Oh, here's another recipe. Carol's You Won't Believe It pie. Half a cup or half a stick of margarine. Got to have margarine for this one. Half a cup of biscuit mix. 2 cups of milk. 4 eggs. 3/4 of a cup of sugar. 1 teaspoon of vanilla. And half a cup of coconut. Oh, no, maybe coconut shredded must be. Put all the ingredients in a blender. Blend on low speed for 2 minutes. Pour into a greased and floured 10-inch pie plate. Bake in a moderate oven for 350 degrees, 45 minutes. The pie makes its own crust. That's Carol's You Won't Believe It pie. I wonder if they just wrote that one up on a whim type thing. I bet they did. Well, we turn our attention now to some random giant stories. We love giant stories here in the Downeast Mike podcast. This is about a living giant from 1902, Pittsburgh Press. A Maine giant who has grown steadily for 30 years. And you'll hear what his height is. A most remarkable specimen of humanity is Laser Jarrett of Limestone, Aroostook County, Maine, who was once a giant and is now little more than a skeleton. Jarrett is one of 12 children of a Tobique Indian and a French-Canadian mother, and was born on an island in the St. Lawrence River 100 miles below Rivière-du-Loup. There were 9 boys, all of them taller than the average man. The father died on the island at the age of about 86, and the mother and her children walked all the way across the country to Aroostook County, Maine, where they were cared for by the people of Limestone until they got employment. It is said that the mother, who lived to be 92 years old, was, at the age of 80, one of the most expert potato pickers in Aroostook County. And we get to his height. Laser was 6'6" tall. He wouldn't even be a point guard in the NBA today. He once weighed 265 pounds. He is now 52 years old, and for the last 30 years has been growing constantly thinner until now he's a mere handful of bones, weighing only 86 pounds. He wears a number 11 shoe and a number 5 hat. What made him grow thin he does not know, nor can any of the many doctors who have examined him give any explanation of the phenomenon. Doctors say that apparently there's nothing particular the matter with Laser, and that if he takes good care of himself, he may live to be as old as was his mother at her death. So he was a giant at 1907 at 6'6", not that big. We have some other giants. This is a big giant day. Lercat, in a memoir read before the Academy of Sciences at Rouen, gives the following account of giants that are said to have existed in different ages. Can't quite read that, but historians have given 7 feet of height to Hercules, their first hero, and in our day we have seen men 8 feet in height. The giant who was shown in Rouen in 1834 measured 8 feet some inches. The Emperor Maximus was that tall. I think this is like fake stuff. Chochius and Petruus, physicians of the last century, saw several of that stature, and Gorpius saw a girl who was 10 feet high. The body of Oretius, I can't read that one, it's pretty blurry print here, according to the Greeks, was 11 feet and a half, and they go on, they list a bunch of them. Fundum, a Scotsman, who lived in the time of Eugene II, the King of Scotland, measured 11 feet and a half. And Jacob Lermain, in his voyage to the Straits of Magellan, reports that on the 17th of December, 1615, they found at Port Desire, several graves covered with stones, and having the curiosity to remove the stones, they discovered human skeletons 10 and 11 feet long. The Chevalier Scory, in his voyage to the peak of Tenerife, says they found in one of the caves at the mountain at the head of a bay, the giant had 80 teeth, and the body was 15 feet long. This is starting to look kind of farcical. The giant Ferragus, slain by Orlando, nephew of Charlemagne, was 18 feet high. Roland, a celebrated anatomist who wrote in 1614, says some years before there were to be seen in the suburbs of Saint-Germain the tomb of a great giant, Isaret, who was 20 feet high. I wonder who made these guys' clothes. In 1500, in digging in the ditches near the Dominicans, if we can see that, they found a stone tomb containing a skeleton whose skull held a bushel of corn and whose shin bone reached up to the girdle of the tallest man there, being about 4 feet long, and consequently the body must have been 17 or 18 feet high. Upon the tomb was a plate of copper, which was engraved, "In this tomb lies the noble lord, the Chevalier Recon de Valemont, and his bones." Platerus, a famous physician, declares that he saw at Lucerne the body of a man which must have been 19 feet high. A lot of giants apparently were around at the time. These were big guys. Let's see if we have another giant story. Oh, by the way, The Funham Scottish giant is not verified. That was kind of a joke. The tallest verified Scottish giant is Angus MacAskill, who lived around 1825 through 1863, and he reached 7 feet 8 inches, and he lived up in Cape Breton. We might do a story on him someday, because he was a real giant, and he was actually around at that time. We have from, this one is out of Pasadena, human skulls and bones uncovered in shell mounds at the Pasadena Estates by Workman Friday are thought to be the Indian tribe that roamed in this section of the country hundreds of years before America's discovery by white men. This is the opinion of Professor Norman Wallace Lermond, the curator and librarian of the Knox Academy of Art and Science in Thomaston, Maine, who is wintering there. Lermond, who is also the editor of the Maine Naturalist Journal, a monthly periodical, examined the bones in the downtown offices of the Pasadena Estates late Saturday afternoon, 1922, and in his preliminary inspection, volunteered the belief that one of the two skulls in the possession of Jack Taylor was that of a man over 8 feet tall. Further examination of the bones will be made by the Maine scientist, and he believes that considerable data of importance will be gathered within the next week. The bones were in excellent state of preservation. They were encased in clay-like receptacles that crumbled at the touch. The skulls, however, were solid. The jaws were square and massive, the teeth whole and void of cavities. The cheekbones were high. Sand had worked its way into several of the large arm and leg bones during the course of time, while one of the skulls was lined with a heavy mold. Maybe it was that chicken mold salad they were eating. The foreheads were high and not receding, as would be expected of age-old human remains. Professor Lerman displayed a keen interest in the find and asked permission to keep for several days the bones uncovered at Pasadena. Those shell mounds it should be, were torn down by laborers who used their shells surfacing roads. Startled by their finds, the laborers refused to continue work when the bones were uncovered. I'd be scared of those bones, too. All right, here's our story from 1907, and this is at in Popham. Skeletons of giant redmen buried at Popham, now to be dug up and paid attention to. Bath, Maine, July 25th, 1907. It's unlikely that the visitors to the tercentennial, either at Bath or Popham, may have the privilege of seeing skeletons of two of the magnificent specimens of physical manhood, such as the American Indians of the days of the Samoset really were. While being interpreted as that James Perkins dug the cellar of his house at Popham Beach on the knoll next north of the Riverside Hotel, and the skeletons were unearthed who were in life from 6 to 7 feet in height, giants, in fact. Mr. Perkins took the jawbone of one of these Indians and placed it on his own face. It completely encased his jaw, and he is a pretty good-sized man. Mr. Perkins gathered all the bones of these two skeletons together and placed them in a barrel and reinterred them. It is proposed to dig up the barrel and have the bones set together to illustrate what manner of inhabitants Weymouth and Popham discovered in the earliest years of the 17th century when they arrived in this section of Maine. Now, I wonder if those bones in the barrel are still there. There's no follow-up on any of these stories. We have a picture of the Riverside House Hotel, Riverside Hotel in Popham Beach, and James Perkins, the bone digger there, he helped build that hotel with his brother, and that was in 1878 that they built that. I don't think that building's still there. Here's another story. This is a little bit different. Dancing girls and a big snake. War horse Wilbur Oliver has come for the Midway of Bath coming carnival. Dancing girls and a boa constrictor that weighs 289 pounds, among other attractions, will be there. The street fair will be free, and its offerings include balloon ascensions twice daily, parachute drops, tight wire and trapeze performances, bicycle and unicycle performances, among the latter being the descent of a bicyclist of a flight of 125 steps. In the Midway, admissions will be charged. These Midway people will be arriving in swarms next week and immediately get busy in putting up their tents and buildings on their locations. The street fair in Midway will be strung along Commercial, Water, and Vine Streets, with the hub of the show, so to speak, in Custom House Square. An intelligence bureau is now in full swing and in tercentennial rooms in Sagadoic Block with lady typewriter in attendance. Street Carnival. That was 1820, or that was in 1907 too, I think. All right, it's time for our insect of the instant. Oh, this is it's kind of a scary looking caterpillar. It's a big green, about 2 inches long. We saw one, it piqued our interest. We saw one out in the yard, and the dog wanted to go after it because it was, it kind of stood out. It was such a big, bright green, got horns on it. And but it turns into a very beautiful moth, just a beautiful moth. You'll have to look up a picture of it afterwards. Dryocampa rubicunda, and that is the rosy maple moth. And that's what it turns into. It's a small North American moth in the family Saturniidae, also known as the great silk moth. It was first described in 1793. It's known for its woolly body, pink and yellow coloration, which varies from cream or white to bright pink or yellow. Let's see, the common name of the species implies the preferred host trees are maple trees. And the green caterpillar we saw was very close to the maple tree, like he'd been blown out in the big windstorm. The emerging caterpillars also are known as the green-striped maple worm. They mainly feed on the leaves of their host maple trees, particularly red maple, silver maple, or sugar maple. Since the caterpillars eat the entire leaf blade, in dense populations, these caterpillars have been known to defoliate trees, resulting in aesthetic rather than permanent damage. However, like all the Saturnid moths, the adult moths do not eat. Imagine that. Their size is about, for the moth themselves, their wingspan is 3.2, or we're not going to do centimeters, 1.25 to 1.75 inches. The females are bigger, up to 2-inch wingspan. The species can be identified by their unique but varying pink and yellow coloration, reddish to pink legs and antennae, yellow bodies and hind wings, and pink forewings with a triangular yellow band across the middle. They're found across the eastern and northern United States and adjacent regions of Canada. Their northernmost range includes the southern regions of Canada, including New Brunswick, Nova Scotia, and Prince Edward Island. And their range along the south is the Atlantic coast of North America down to Dade County, Florida, and extends west from eastern Texas through Minnesota. So this little moth and its caterpillar, we had a life cycle here. You'll see the larvae hatch and live on the same tree throughout their development. Then they pupate in the soil beneath the same tree. The larvae primarily eat the underside of leaves, therefore preferentially staying in that location of their home tree. The adults do not eat so they can have a sizable home range. Go look for a moth, I guess. We run out of material for today. We'll have more next week. Until next time, I do hope that you and your loved ones enjoy a day that is, or maybe a whole week, that's full of grace, love, and kindness. This is Downeast Mike saying we'll see you next time. Someone keyed my car door. I'm not so sure I want to live in Maine anymore. I'm driving to Vermont, where the hills are green and the people there are seldom mean, except when they're texting.
Gonna learn to drive my motorcycle in the snow. Gonna climb those green mountains till there's nowhere left to go. Gonna paddle my canoe down the Winooski River. I'm driving to Vermont. I'm driving to Vermont. Brattleboro, here we go. Marlboro too. Wilmington and Dover, Jamaica, look at you. I'm driving in Vermont. I'm driving in Vermont. I'm going to Peru and Dorset too. Gonna jump into Lake Champlain. Wash away the pain. Gonna learn to drive my motorcycle in the rain. Gonna climb those green mountains. I'll paddle my canoe down the Winooski River. I'm driving to Vermont. I'm driving to Vermont. Searsburg and Grafton, Athens too. I'm driving in Vermont. Putney and Pulteney, Bennington and Rupert. I'm driving in Vermont. A maple leaf just flew over my head. To ride my motorcycle in the snow. Gonna climb those green mountains till there's nowhere left to go. Gonna paddle my canoe down the Winooski River. I'm driving in Vermont. I'm driving in Vermont.